we'll move on from the AJ Dubois fight, but we'll talk about what Tyson Fury's been saying, because he's popped up, flapping his gums on TNT, talking about the idea. Two things he was talking about. He was talking about his performance against Usyk and the next fight coming up. We'll get to that in a second. But he was also talking about the nature of a fight against Anthony Joshua and the potential of that fight being made, even if both fighters were to lose. If he was to lose to Usyk and if there is a rematch and the rematch is signed to fight Dubois and Joshua was to lose that fight would still be in demand. What's your take on that?
I think in some elements he's right. I think there's a pocket of the audience that would still buy a ticket and come out and buy a pay-per-view to watch Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, regardless of their age and where they're currently at in their careers. Personally, for me, I think maybe that time has passed. I think we had better opportunities in the last 2 to 3 years to make that fight, and it could have been a super fight. It could have been one of the greatest fights of all time, and we might have got 2 and maybe 3.
Would you want to see it?
I'm a boxing fan, so probably, yeah. And I agree with what Tyson was saying on the TV at the weekend. It would be a travesty. I mean, if you think about this era and you think about the guys that have come through this era, the whole conversation of this era has been about Tyson Fury and has been about Anthony Joshua. For those two guys to have never have met each other in a ring, even if it comes when it feels a bit like Mayweather-Pacquiao or Khan-Brook, then I think it would satisfy a certain amount of thirst with some of the boxing audience. But it's, for me now, it's never going to be what it could have been.
Could have been, yeah. Which I think is a discredit on the promoters, quite frankly, because that fight should have been able to be made. But going to something else that Tyson talked about, which is the fight that's coming up now with Usyk, and his approach to this fight against his approach to the first fight, and his, in my mind, the rewriting of history. I don't know if Paulie's heard or seen it, but if he has, jump in, Paulie. But I wanted to know what your takeaway from what Tyson Fury was saying about specifically the way he's going to deal with Usyk this time round. He's in destroy mode, whereas last time he wasn't. I mean, this is a guy that was telling everyone that he was fighting a middleweight, and that that he was too big, too strong. So I'm curious to see, because my first reaction when I looked at it was, despite the fact that I think Tyson Fury is going to win this fight, and we'll get Paulie's opinion on that in a second, I thought it was a load of old bollocks. I thought it was nonsense what he said. I don't know what your thoughts were.
Well, fighters do this. Fighters have to get themselves into a frame of mind in order to convince themselves that last time this was the situation.
Sure.
This time it's going to be completely different.
And that's fine, but I'm asking you what we think of what he says.
I'm a man that sat across from Tyson Fury in the build-up to his Deontay Wilder second fight.
Yep.
And he kept telling me, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to knock this dude out. And I was like, mate, come on, give me the legitimate way that you're going to go about doing this. Because at the time, if everybody remembers, the best bit of advice that most people would have thrown towards Tyson Fury, stay out of range, stay on the end of it. You won the first fight, you just got done on the cards. Do exactly that again and you'll win and you become the champion of the world. What did he do? He turned up on fight night.
He met him.
And he absolutely battered him, is what he did. Nobody had ever done that to Deontay Wilder. So I think there is an element of what you're saying there regarding Tyson Fury trying to convince himself that this was the situation last time, it's going to be completely different next time, and I'm cool with that. It's his world, he's got to get himself in the right frame of mind. But there's also an element of me of saying, I'm not going to doubt him again, because he's done that to me before. I never thought that it was possible that he would be able to do what he did to Deontay Wilder in the way that he did it. And I genuinely believe that if he is to beat Oleksandr Usyk, the way that he's talking is the way that he's got to go and do it. He's got to go into the fire, and he's got to go forward, and he's got to put and use all that size and ability on Oleksandr Usyk in December.
Paulie, as far as the Fury-Usyk rematch, where are you on the outcome of that one?
Well, I want to piggyback along what you guys were just talking about. I think, if I hadn't seen the rematch of the Wilder fight where he had that approach, because I was the same way. I thought he was just talking a lot, but there's no way he can go and pressure Wilder, and the way he did it. And I look at Usyk, and he's a much smaller guy. I think, you know what, this might be the approach to take. Also, I don't think mentally you're going to really discombobulate Usyk the way you're able to discombobulate Wilder, where he gets mad and he gets emotional. So I think if you talk like this, I really believe Fury. As far as the rematch is concerned, I think Fury can still win the rematch. It's not an easy fight, because Usyk is not the kind of guy you can just pressure and put on the back foot the same way Wilder is. Because Usyk can box very well. He's got good balance with his feet. Wilder's balance was terrible. Fundamentally, Wilder's feet were horrible. So once you start pushing a guy like that back, you take a lot away from him. Not to say that this isn't the approach to take, though, for Fury. You're a bigger guy. You're a heavyweight. You were calling Usyk a middleweight. Then use that heavyweight physique and make it uncomfortable. But I do think it's still not going to be easy. I could see Fury winning a rematch, but I don't think it's as one-sided as the Wilder rematch.
But why would it now be the approach? I mean, ultimately, everyone looked at the Usyk fight and felt that the size and strength of Tyson Fury was the main advantage. So, without wanting to be a mind reader, which none of us can be, why would that have not been approached for the first fight, and subsequently he's had an epiphany to have it for the second fight? I mean, isn't he just readdressing the window because he's been dealt with by Usyk and he's trying to portray it as an event that he enjoyed? And that ultimately was in control of the fight. And I don't think any of us really think, besides a decent passage of time during the fight, that he looked in good nick. But he nearly got knocked out. And I'm trying to take away from this particular observations by Tyson. Why would he be approaching it this way now when he approached it completely different? I know because he's lost, and that would be the obvious conclusion. But why wouldn't he have been approaching it that way, given that he said he was the bigger, stronger, ultimately fighting a middleweight? It feels to me like he's redressing the window to make the best version of events to give us an outcome that should have been the outcome in the first fight with that same set of parameters around it.
I understand what you're saying, but again, if I keep referring back to that Deontay Wilder fight, it was Tyson Fury that made those decisions to fight the way that he did. If you remember the first fight, it was Ben Davison randomly that we were talking about that was in his corner. He changed the corner in order to bring in a team that could help him do what he believed was the right way of going about being Deontay Wilder, and he's done that.
But I believed him, by the way. When he said he was going to meet Deontay Wilder in the middle of the ring, I believed him because I think he'd seen Deontay Wilder's power and he thought we could cope with it.
Right, there you go. So he's got data now. He's been in there, he's felt it, he's understood it. I think a lot of people, when they look from the outside of Oleksandr Usyk, the way that he goes about fighting, I don't think they fully understand. I'm not saying that Tyson Fury didn't fully understand. Of course he did. He's a very intelligent man. But I don't think they fully understand what this guy does. His range control, as Paulie was saying a minute or two ago, about his balance and his feet, is absolutely sensational. He makes you work when you don't necessarily want to work. You're in fifth gear when he's in second and he's waiting for you to do your thing. Said, absolutely. Yeah. I think now Tyson Fury has got, he's been presented the data in front of him and he's like going, this is actually how you go about doing it. Because if you look at the story of that fight, Usyk comes out and you've got a really competitive first first couple of rounds, as Tyson Fury then makes the adjustment and he starts to go away. Mm-hmm. And then it's Usyk that makes the adjustment, of which then Tyson Fury can't then get back in. I think now that he's got the data, he's going to go, I'm not even going to let him dictate this dance. Yeah. I'm going to do this in order to take over the fight and hopefully, in Tyson Fury's eyes, get him out of there. Mm.
Well, I mean, my view is I think the Fury will win the fight. And I hope he does.
In the way that he's speaking about?
Yeah, because I think that was the main advantage that he had. And I don't know why he didn't deploy it the first time around. It may be because he wasn't able to, or he'd already committed himself to a course of action that he subsequently couldn't reverse out of.